ignored the fact that people are human for
Yeah.
so long, and
Yeah.
it's so unnecessary. Why put these like false sort of restrictions and limitations in place to only have a negative effect on people's sort of frame of mind, for them to come into work and not probably perform at the best?
Yeah, I just think it is counterproductive ultimately.
Yeah.
A bunch of people wrote like a letter to all the companies dealing with the AI saying that there needs to be like a regulatory board in place
Absolutely.
and stuff to discuss it now before it gets too
we get
too late, effectively.
Yeah.
But I think before it's like this pie in the sky thing that we see on films and stuff, and I think genuinely we are at a point now where that things are moving in that direction, where it is going to become a big thing in a lot of things that we use from a technological perspective.
What would be like one piece, if you could give one piece of advice to get into this industry or this type of work, what would you do?
I mean, I think it's just all about having an online portfolio.
Yeah.
Having your work sort of constantly like uploading work. I mean, I've slipped out of it now pretty much because we're so busy here, but you know, sort of in your spare time, having an online portfolio and being able to have, you know, current and up-to-date work and just keep adding to it.
I think people don't realise what actually, like, I don't think you know what social media job's going to be like.
I really thought it'd be, like, not boring, but just personal every day, just monotonous.
It's such a variety of different things.
There's a lot more you can add
really
to
love.
it, definitely. But yeah, it's nice to see, I suppose, like people, like even if you fall into it, I think it's like, it shows how good a job it is and how good a role it is.
You fall in it, you stay. You don't plan on
literally.
leaving, like ever.
Yeah.
So we've been with Superfly working with us for 3 months. And you've got a load of experience in kind of corporate marketing, I would say. Is that fair to say? And charity stuff. Although you're young, you've got a really kind of big amount of experience. I think that definitely shows from when I've been working with you. But now you kind of work in an agency, and so I suppose, how is it different, and how have you found it, and what is your experience? Because I'm sure there are loads of people out there that haven't worked for agencies before, that have, and I feel like that's quite an interesting kind of different kind of career.
Yeah, I think it's obviously still early days. Not been here that long, so I think things will change over time. But I do have a lot of experience client side in marketing, and I've always worked with agencies, so I kind of know the setup. I know how they work. I've had some really good experiences with working with agencies. I've always like really admired them and how they kind of really sort of get stuck into projects from an outside perspective. And I, you know, it's really, I've worked on some brilliant campaigns with agencies. I never really thought that I'd work for an agency, not out of not wanting to, but just I just never thought I would. But the opportunity arose, and I thought, I think it would suit me, and I'm glad I took that leap, really. In terms of how things are different, I think it depends on the current sort of setup within marketing departments, because, you know, you will probably tend to have different setups depending on the business. You know, that might be where there might be multiple people working in a marketing team, or it might be just one person, or a marketing manager with an assistant or an exec underneath them. So the setup can be really different. So it's hard to sort of make that sort of comparison.
Still early days as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I think I love the energy here. I think it's great. I think everyone is sort of, you know, an expert in their own little field, and I really think that's really useful. And I think the way that we all sort of collaborate is really sort of beneficial. Because you don't always tend to get that within a marketing department, for a few different reasons. Like
egos.
Well, I think I don't necessarily think it's that. I think it's depending on the setup.
The structure.
The structure, and a marketing department might not have all the right skill sets. And the right training, or they might, if you've got maybe a marketing manager that is sort of has worked on specific campaigns and specific sort of areas, like say community engagement or sponsorship or print campaigns, they might have like a bit of a sort of a bias and then sort of not have the expertise in other areas, so like digital performance marketing. And that's where we would sort of like come in. The guys here, we've got a range of different disciplines that we work on, and that's why I think like a marketing agency can be good working with clients, because it's almost like they can be an extension of their team. And that's what I've found from my experience. When I've been client side, absolutely a good agency will be an extension of your team and can be utilised really effectively.
Plugging gaps.
Yeah, exactly. But just also being sort of like ahead of the game on trends and technology as well. Technology, I think, is a big one, because things are changing in digital all the time. And when you're client side, there's so much noise. You kind of, you might be sort of thinking about budgeting, managing staff, you're reporting to sort of senior members and the sort of board of directors, and they're all, it's a lot about reporting back and monitoring KPIs and all that type of thing.
Way more processes, aren't there? Which there needs to be, because the bigger organisations, aren't there? So there needs to be that structure, otherwise the whole thing just goes. Well, I suppose because although there's a team of 11, and we're starting to get to a bigger size, we're starting to see the need for more of these kind of processes. And I think you've definitely helped with that experience, because I'm especially not very good at that side of things. So I need structure because I'm not very structured. So I think me and you as a team, I feel like that's like started to work really well, which I'm really happy with. And do you think that that is a common theme, like with bigger businesses becomes there is a need for more structure, and the marketing teams are more strategic, and the agencies are more kind of, they have to be responsive and they're kind of helping plug in the gaps. So it is a bit more chaotic to some degree. Or do you think that's just, what do you think?
I think it can be two things. I think like there's so much sort of going on in sort of client side, that it can be two things. Usually, you might find that there's so much going on that a marketing manager can't always get the headroom to think creatively, to think strategically, because they're busy doing the doing. But then on the flip side, there might be some marketing departments where they're doing all the strategic thinking and don't have the time or the skill set to be able to implement what the activity needs to be.
Sit on Google Ads all day and work out how to frigging promote things on that platform, which is a job in itself. Yeah,
completely. And marketing's ever evolving, so it's not like you've got your plan and then you do that and that's it, and the job's done.
It's almost changing like weekly. Like me and Charlie are going to chat in a bit about the kind of the AI stuff, and even since the last 3 weeks ago, it's started to change, like more implementation and the way that it's been used and stuff. It's really rapidly kind of changing, and it is interesting. But it's also you've also got to keep on top of it as well, otherwise you end up looking like an idiot.
So I think there's a few reasons why clients come to us, and I just really love sort of working on those proposals and getting receiving the briefs and coming up with sort of doing the research, gaining the insight and getting that sort of data if it's available, and then piecing together, you know, with the help of the team and piecing together a plan that will fulfill the brief, meet the challenge. And I just think like that's always kind of been a strength of mine, just being able to look at that. I'm a critical thinker. I'm a mediator. I look at both sides or several sides. And I think it really suits me. Yeah,
you're almost like writing these kind of micro, sometimes they're like 30 pages long, but micro like marketing strategies for people to and as a starting point almost. And then that does actually influence if we start working with that client, which at the moment has been really successful. And then kind of you put in the burns of things, and then the team kind of bring it to life to some degree creatively, and that must be quite satisfying.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Great. So, as a single mum of 2, how have you found fitting work around being a parent?
I think you just find a way, don't you? You've just got to. It's not always easy. Some days are like, how is it going so smooth? You know, things are just working. How is this happening? But then other days, you've just got to be really sort of on it and be really organised. And I suppose just I've kind of got to know where I need to be able to sort of do things so that I know that there won't be a repercussion. So that might be just like setting a reminder on my phone.
You got to think like a few steps ahead, I think.
Exactly.
Like,
completely.
Even when you go downstairs and start doing breakfast, like, right, I'm doing this. What have I got to do next? It's like to stop this bad thing from happening.
Completely. Or anticipate problems.
Absolutely.
Kids are very emotional, and they can be emotional at the like wrong time when you're trying to get out the door, to not be late for work or whatever. And
just when you think it's going fine, all of a sudden, bang, there's a meltdown. It's like, what? Where did that come from?
So you've got to kind of preempt these problems. So I try to do that as best I can. Obviously, you know, it doesn't always work, but the fact that, you know, I've found that Superfly and, you know, the guys here are really understanding and supportive. It's just make things so much easier. In terms of actually the process of you know, getting here and doing the things that I need to do, but also for my well-being. And I think that's really important because you know, not just for me, but for everyone and everyone's well-being here. But I think having an attitude that's more in tune with real life is so important, because it's good for people's well-being and it's therefore good for their children's well-being. Because if I'm like, you know, stressed worrying about getting to work on time, you know, I will always endeavour to get here on time and things, because I'm just that type of person. But I don't like massively stress, because I just know that will have an indirect negative effect on my children and then escalate any sort of situation. So if I'm there like all tense and like, you know, kind of trying to hurry them too much, I just know that it will
it almost oozes out of you, doesn't it?
Completely. And it will just actually make them feel stressed, and then they're more likely to not behave in the way that I need them to. So
I felt early on when we'd had Ellis, I did struggle to kind of adjust. I think we both did, to be fair. But me especially, I just thought I could just crack on and do pretty much the same. And it's just like, no, there needs to be a lot more bending and a lot more. But then I also, it took me ages to realise this. But then if I was kind of stressed at home, or if that was kind of, if my routine or the way that I was living at home wasn't right, I'd come to work and wouldn't do anything. So I'd just be real stressed.
Well, you're not in the right
I couldn't concentrate. So I was just worrying about what was going on, like at home. I was worrying about Tony. I was worrying about Ellis.
And that's it, exactly. And that's why, like, you know, you get the best of me by being understanding. And to be fair, I don't think, you know, and it's caused a problem by you guys being flexible or leaving a little bit earlier, because you know it works. And it works for me, and it might not always kind of need to be like that, but that's just, it's just having that sort of understanding approach to that life happens and
Absolutely.
and we're all human. I mean, really, obviously I can understand in some jobs where there needs to be a real strict level of structure. I get that. You know, we can't discount that.
Yeah.
But where it doesn't have to be like that, it's like we've ignored the fact that people are human for so long, and it's so unnecessary. Why put these like false sort of restrictions and limitations in place to only have a negative effect on people's sort of frame of mind for them to come into work and not probably perform at the best?
Yeah, I just think it is counterproductive ultimately.
Yeah.
I think I feel like it's helped me kind of going through that. But then also it's like if you don't have kids or if you're younger and you're younger in your career as well, you can be late. Like stuff can happen. Shit can happen like in your life.
Breakdown,
yeah. Doesn't matter.
You forget your lunch or you forget your phone or whatever. It's these things happen. I have been in environments before where it's been like really sort of like, really like unnecessarily sort of rigid with things like that. And it's like,
do you think that's like a control thing? I need to control this situation. Otherwise, I don't know. It's almost like not trusting to some degree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, it's up to the person to sort of like, it's up to the manager or whoever's in charge to sort of like, read between the lines. But I feel like I've always been very sort of open and honest and fair. Know I always want to do a great job. And that's just who I am. That's just, what.
Perfectionist.
No, but being perfectionist isn't always good because it's actually never impossible. It's impossible, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you get what I mean. Like, I do try to like do what I can.
Absolutely.
And, it's I appreciate
no question.
A senior person, seeing that and valuing that.
Yeah. The people who are successful in business.
Yeah, I think people who are successful in business always free themselves up to do the thing that they're good at and get other people to do things that they're good at.
Yeah.
And often better at than you, because that's literally all they're doing.
Yeah. I feel like we've like hung on to doing things ourselves for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Up until the last maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I keep saying 2 years, but then I've said 2 years for about a year. So it probably is 3 years.
Yeah. I think it's taking that leap as well of like losing control over that thing and allowing someone else to take control over it. Can feel a little bit scary as well. Especially like when it's your baby or whatever, you want things doing a certain way, but actually sometimes there is other ways to do it. Or maybe they'll do something that's maybe not quite as good as the way you would do that thing, but then they'll do other things far better and stuff. So it's being open to that. That not everything can be 100% perfect in every single way.
No. Or not even 100% perfect, 100% how you would do it to your standards.
Yeah.
But then standards are different, aren't they? And people have their own qualities. I think we found that recently. We're bringing in quite a lot of new people. They've all been really good. They've been maybe they've been better at some things that I never would have expected them to be as good at. And then it's like, right, we don't need to do that anymore because we're comfortable with them doing it. I feel the more you can get those cogs kind of running and a good kind of cohesive team and people being happy with that, I think that's really important. And getting in like software and stuff to help you do things that just take ages.
Yeah, I think it opens up doors as well. Like the way other people do certain things might open up doors in your service tiers or whatever you're offering or all that sorts of things. Yeah, I think it's important running a business to do that.
I think it's quite a profound thing, but then it's a lot easier said than done, especially when you're early days and you don't have loads of cash flow and you don't have the money to spend on software that costs thousands of pounds or whatever a year or even more now looking at things. But I suppose it's taking those leaps and making those changes.
Yeah.
So earlier in the week, we were talking just in the office about the Chat GPT stuff and the AI stuff that I've been talking about on these videos. I know it seems like quite a cliche thing to talk about because it feels like everyone's talking about it. But You mentioned to me that it's kind of it's changed quite a lot since we last talked about. So I was just interested to hear about that because I kind of always stopped you. I was like, don't talk about it now. And talk about it on video. That's a great idea. So I suppose I'm actually genuinely interested to see what you think.
I thought when we spoke about it before, it was real surface level, real basic. Kind of understanding of it then was that it wasn't maybe as big as I think it is going to be now. And just looking at it, we looked at it from like content and what perspective that's going to bring to content, and thought, not much.
Like
basically.
written content.
Yeah.
Like blogs.
Yeah. Whereas I think that was a very naive way of looking at where things are at. And I think that becomes from previously. We've had AI floating around for years and years and years, but I think now money is flooding into it. Attention and effort is flooding into it. Microsoft and Google both are plowing loads into it. They're both competing. It's like early days of tech all over again. This like hot thing that they're all trying to go after. And already like there's been Chat GPT 4 has come out, which is like a new step, and it has different layers of like understanding and capabilities.
I saw that on Twitter.
But some of the models that are already happening behind closed doors and stuff are even further on from that. And I think the attention and the focus and the money that's going into it now is I think we're on the precipice of like a new technological shift.
Absolutely,
of this thing that we've been speaking about for a long time, but has never like truly happened. In the same way, like like smartphones, like your first iPhone. I think that's literally where we are. We're looking at like a leap, and I think it's going to be in like everything. I think the way you look at search engines, I think they'll be completely different in 10 years. Microsoft are integrating it into all their Office stuff. I think the way it helps us at work is going to be massive. Coming into a meeting late and saying, "Can you summarize the meeting for me?" And apparently, you should be able to know what you are interested in the meeting based on what it knows about you, and therefore what topics are being covered in that meeting, and then it can summarize those topics that are relevant to you when you've come in late to a meeting to know that what you're actually interested in hearing about, because you don't want to hear about the other 30 minutes of waffle that people are talking about. And same as like using like your emails, being able to like summarize emails. The way now you search through your emails, you just like, right, mail from this person, this date, done. You just be able to natural language, like ask it those kind of things. It'll just be able to pull that information out to you and summarize those kind of things. Same as like rewrite a piece of content. Like if you're in Word, in the middle of Word, you just be like, I want to rewrite. Can you rewrite me this content but change the tone of voice to be like this, and just do it?
Think of the profoundness of complications that potentially might then incur. All these amazing things that are great, is going to improve our lives, like the internet did.
The internet,
But then think of all the intricacies of communication and the way we interact with each other as humans. I think an interesting part of it is how we've got a lot of this technology already in our homes, in our actual houses, and we talk to some degree like, hey Google, add something to my shopping list. That's going to become like a person in your home. That helps you manage your home.
I think it's previously for you to like write code, for example, you have to know how to code, which is a very skilled, takes years, it's challenging. It's not for everyone at all. To have now a means of communication with a computer or a device that's natural language, the prospects that could potentially open up and the capabilities of that, there's plenty of creative people that can't write code, but they can talk to something and maybe have that conversation with that thing to be able to build that code, which then writes that piece of software for them, for example. I know seems a bit pie in the sky, but it is able to write code. It has problems with the way it does that, but if you could have a conversation to achieve that, and it could write that code, execute that code, and run that code, for example, you could potentially write or develop something using words, like rather than actually having to know the exact coding elements to everything. I think that opens up a whole new element of creativity as well. I think there's a lot of things that before we were just thinking, write some content kind of thing. It's not all that. The areas that it can improve on and the ways that it can help assist people in work, assist people in skill sets, I think is going to be huge.
There's a lot of responsibility of the tech companies at the moment.
Yeah.
To use this in a safe, in a responsible way. Because if this is just the start of it, then it's important to set those boundaries in fairly soon. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think there's conversations about that happening. I think a bunch of people wrote like a letter to all the companies dealing with the AI saying that there needs to be like a regulatory board in place and stuff to discuss it now before it gets too late, effectively. But I think before it's like this pie in the sky thing that we see on films and stuff, and I think genuinely we are at a point now where that things are moving in that direction where it is going to become a big thing. In a lot of things that we use from a technological perspective.
Because we're thinking about work and stuff like that and the way that we socially interact and how it can help us. But you haven't scratched the surface of how they're going to use it in frigging wars and stuff like that. And that's when it becomes really scary. You're fighting against AI military is not a nice thought.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's really interesting.
It's definitely interesting.
I think it's the beginning of something that's going to be pretty big, a lot bigger than maybe we discussed before.
I suppose one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is you're a graphic designer.
Yes.
You're now, creative lead here at Superfly.
Yes.
I think at a relatively young age. I think that's
probably
20, 25?
25.
Yeah. And you've been doing that all since leaving school, have you not?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
17. Probably 17 when I left school. Do you want me to go into it?
I think I think what people would find interesting, if people are trying to get into the industry, no matter what their age is, I think you did really well to get a job in the kind of a creative industry early on.
Yeah.
But then I think that's quite an interesting journey, and it is how, I suppose, what is your experience and what advice would you give to people trying to get into a job like this?
Yeah, I think like the way I went into it is typically like not the norm. Because I mean, most people go to do college and do uni for like something creative, but I was never like one to really want to go to uni. I guess I didn't really know what I wanted to do anyways. All I knew was I just loved generally creativity and art and design.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the path I went down was after I left school, I did go to college for about 4 months doing an art and design course. And then, I don't know, as much as I enjoyed it, I thought, oh God, like, I don't know where I'm going after this. I don't know what I want to do. There was very pushy for university and I didn't know what I wanted exactly to do. And then I remember talking to my mum about it, and she found... she was looking at apprenticeships at the time because my brother was looking at his because he's a year behind me, so he was looking into them as well. And she found an artwork one. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll have to look into it. And I thought, if it gets me into an industry and it gets me into something that could be then moved on to being creative and whatever, I wasn't really sure what to expect, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it was... I just thought, I'll go for it. Anyways, went for it, got it. And then that was how it sort of started when I was 17 then. Yeah, so I left college and did that and did the apprenticeship.
What was it like, being so young, going straight into like a really adult working environment? Because I went to uni, so I had 3 years of kind of that before I even kind of got a proper job anyway.
Yeah, I've always... been naturally probably older than what I am anyways.
You have.
Yeah, but I was in the office that I was working in, like I think there's about 30 odd people working in the office. I was the youngest. I remember like I turned 18 and they'd got me a cake and everything, and it was like, oh God, I'm like the baby of the group. But I mean, luckily in that scenario, I get along with older people anyways. So I felt it, you know, sort of slotted in quite naturally, I think, to the scenario. But yeah, I think you had to grow up as well.
It's a transition, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, a massive difference compared to college and being around like.
Oh, definitely.
People who are,
the same age.
Act younger.
Yeah, they do.
Than you as well.
I think when you go into like especially an office environment, you've got people who've got like families and people who are older than you. However, you're still an adult at the same time, aren't you? You're coming in as an adult, and then they kind of give you this respect that you're kind of not used to. I think to some degree, like because you're used to like just people being parental. And then you go into this adult environment and it's like, whoa, like... Yeah,
you just have to like look after yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
But everyone was real welcoming and everything like that. And it was quite an easy like transition into being in school and then, you know, sort of being in the work environment. It suited me better than education did. I'm more, I'd say more practical than, you know, sort of academic. Yeah, it suited me well. But what was your question? About
I suppose
advice I'd give.
Well, sort of. Maybe advice or maybe just kind of your journey. So you've started off as like an art worker, which is almost like a design admin job. I would describe it. It's very much kind of looking at like figures and artwork and numbers and stuff like that, and making sure that everything's like in its.
It was making something like to spec to the guidelines, following them, even though it was already like designed. But you'd be making changes and doing all that sort of thing. It feels like forever ago. Like now, but but I mean,
it was 8 years ago. So
when I started, God, but I think like doing it going into my career that way, it was like it. I think compared to if I did go to uni, I mean, it was just though it wasn't directly being a graphic designer, it was. You know, threw me in the deep end of learning like all the intricacies of Adobe, for instance. Like that's how I'd like, you know, learn how to use Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, and the rest of them. But in a different way, and in a way I don't regret that because like I know the package, you know, really well now because I've been on it and doing that for so many years. Like you just sort of. It helps knowing how to, like when you have a design idea, it helps knowing like sort of how to go about doing it because I'm familiar with it from having so many years experience in it.
I've lost my trail of thought. I thought of a real good question then. I've just completely lost it. So what were we talking about? So when that was it. I think this is I think when people are looking to get into design and they look at, although you say like you don't regret going into that kind of route, I don't know why the hell you would regret it. I feel like that's a great opportunity.
I mean, sometimes it's been like, oh God, should I have gone to uni? Like would I have been better?
I mean, my opinion is no.
I don't know. I think sometimes you do think that because you think, oh well, if I did a degree in it and sort of, you know, you have it's like free reign of learning and creating your own like sort of style perhaps. But I don't know. I think that's just a thought because like I didn't do that, so it's always like, oh, well,
it's like
what
was
would
the grass
it have been
greener?
like?
Yeah. I mean, I went to uni for 3 years and I did marketing, and this is my experience. And no disrespect to people going to uni, I went and actually it did help me get a job. Yeah. However, the stuff that I learned at uni was almost completely useless when I went and got my first job because it's like I was writing like marketing proposals in a team. No, not proposal. Sorry, that's what I do now. Jesus. Marketing strategies and these huge like pages, like 30 or 40 pages of like the marketing strategy for like Coors Light or something launching in this country. And then in comparison to starting a job in a mental health charity and having to promote stress management courses to people who don't have a job in Withensea, it's like it's literally the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Like it's not real. It's not like tangible, I think, to some degree. It's very kind of like hypothetical. Whilst when you get a marketing job, it's like, right, you got this, you got to promote it, you got to either sell it or you got to kind of get people to do something.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where your real challenge comes in. In this industry, my experiences is doing is better than sitting there and learning for 3 years.
I think like having sort of working in a job where you're thrown into it, I think like I'm more of that type of learner.
Yeah. I am as well.
More practical, you know, sort of digest information easier as well when I'm like sort of working on something and developing it from there, opposed to like I just never imagined like being in lectures or whatever. Like, you know, sort of being talked at. Not really. I don't really enjoy that. But yeah.
So now you've kind of gone from doing kind of artwork and stuff to being like the main creative driving force probably of this business, I would say.
Yeah.
And how does that differ, I think, in a day-to-day job wise?
I mean, massively. Like it's obviously much more creative overall in general. And I think in this job in particular, because we have so many different clients, it's just different every day pretty much. It's so varied.
Yeah, it is.
Whereas like in my old job, I was in a department of a specific for a specific brand and you know, it's sort of very similar work, you know, day in, day out sort of thing. So I mean it's drastically different, you know, compared to, you know, my previous job to this job. But yeah, I think the creative part of this job is just the best thing about it, because, you know, I've pretty much free rein with coming up with ideas and, you know, sort of the proposals and everything that we do and the work for our clients. It's just so varied and yeah, it's great. It's fun.
Good. But I think what helps us is that there's quite a lot of other people who are quite creative as well, and that we can all kind of work together. And I feel like the collaboration's fun, I think, and it also pushes you to do better work.
Absolutely, yeah. It I think working alongside, you know, people with other ideas, it then drives other ideas and ends up with a really great product at the end of it. So, yeah. But I mean, compared to like my previous job there, I was surrounded by quite creative people,
definitely.
But I guess it was that job that, you know, sort of the job wasn't to be creative in that instance. It was just to know the, you know, the elements in order to make the product, amend the packaging and stuff like that.
Cool. So lastly on this, I think graphic design creative jobs are notoriously hard to get into. There isn't many of them, I don't think.
No, not around here as well.
No, especially not in Hull, no. What would be what would be like one piece, if you could give one piece of advice to get into this industry or this type of work, what would you do?
I mean, I think it's just all about having an online portfolio.
Yeah.
Having your work sort of constantly like uploading work. I mean, I've slipped out of it now because we're so busy here, but, you know, sort of in your spare time, having an online portfolio and being able to have, you know, current and up-to-date work and just keep adding to it for then if an opportunity does come about, you know, being able to just jump on it straight away. Because it's like with this one, I had like things set up, not with like I was I guess looking for jobs, but I wasn't so actively looking, should we say.
Yeah.
But I had, you know, my online sort of
portfolio
little
already set up.
platform thing.
Mm.
And I mean, like having an Instagram account as well.
Yeah.
Having like a creative account on some form of social media, it is really good to like sort of get traction.
Yeah.
You know, LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
Doing that, just putting your work out there in general. Like,
don't be afraid to put your work out there.
You've just got to sort of suck it up and be like, okay, just put it out there, see what happens, and it could work in your favour.
Mm. So leading on from that conversation, that was kind of very about your kind of career and how to get into design, but during that timeline, you've made some kind of like quite big steps in your personal life to some degree, like financially.
Yes.
You're a home earner at 25, which I think is an achievement in itself.
Yeah.
I
know, lucky I am.
But also, well, you're lucky, but these things don't happen purely because of luck, do they? But you've also had 2 houses before that, and you got onto the property ladder quite early, I think. Well, early than
19.
19. I don't think many people can say that they've done that.
No.
And I think a lot of that is, well, I don't know. I'm interested. How did you do that?
Well, I mean, you know, working from 17. No, well, working from 15, actually. My first job was when I was 15. Honestly.
And did you start saving then?
No, I literally like, it was at Superdrug. I did 4 hours on a Saturday, 2 hours on a Sunday.
Nice, yeah.
Because I was like under the age of, you could only do a certain amount.
Probably getting paid like something stupid.
I remember $18.88. That's what I got paid a week.
£18.88 a week?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I used to spend it on makeup. And I used to spend it in the shop.
In Superdrug, yeah.
Just buying makeup. But but then, like we say, started work at my apprenticeship when I was 17. And then, I mean, do you know what? It's quite, the circumstance was, though I was on an apprenticeship wage for like 2 years, which obviously isn't tons of money, but I mean, at my age, like when I was, that age, I was like, oh God,
it is a lot of money,
rich, this is great, but I didn't have any responsibilities then.
No.
But the circumstance, I guess, working at my previous job was, there used to be, for example, these schemes where on top of our 37 hours, we did 23 hours overtime.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
And I used to get a bonus.
Yeah.
So, like,
God,
it was a great time.
Yeah,
I mean, it was exhausted.
Yeah. Just
oh my God,
it
was so tired. Yeah, it was like zombies pretty much. But our department offered that when we was like in the really busy periods. And God, I used to just crack on and do them and just save my money. I used to be sort of earning a lot more than my typical wage, so I was like definitely utilising that opportunity.
Yeah. So then did you start just shuffling that money away?
Yeah, I got in the first time buyer ISA.
Yeah.
And then I just like sort of saved and saved and saved. But so where I lived at the time, I essentially bought like the cheapest house around that area.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like saving up tons of money, it was
still a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, definitely for my age, but it wasn't like, it wasn't a big massive house. It was like quite a rundown little house. And I mean, I've always been into that, like home interior stuff. God, my favourite like program when I was little was like DIY SOS.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could see the vision.
You could see the vision. You've got that creative brain. Yeah. But I feel like even at 19, no matter what the kind of financial kind of restraints are, even making that commitment to do that, I think it is a big step to take. I would have never done that. No,
it was a huge deal in it. Like, it just at that time it just felt, sort of the right thing to do. But then so I did that and then sort of flipped it and bought the next house and then did the same again. Just decorating it. But I think essentially it is all down to my decisions from, you know, deciding to leave college, deciding to do an apprenticeship and earning money from quite a young age and saving and doing that sort of thing, you know. If I'd have gone down a different route, I think I wouldn't have been sort of in the position that I'm in now where I'm on to, you know, luckily my third house. You know, it's the circumstance was that, you know, I was earning a lot of money for my age, I guess, at that point. And I just, saved it and sort of started a mortgage with it,
Well, I think you've done really well. Inspirational.
Thanks.
How do we think Chris Beverley and Shreddy have absolutely smashed marketing?
I think the main thing behind Shreddy is a community.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, I think that's what puts her aside from other similar businesses. Even Grace Beverley in general, both her businesses, it's community-based.
100%.
And helps with the growth, I think, with it.
Definitely. I think so much of the content on Shreddy is about, like, catering towards the audience she's got. And, like, they do recipes for people that are in, you know, in a kind of similar situation. They do, I don't know, they've done, like, shopping hauls and all sorts. Like, come to work with me and things like that. It makes you feel like you're a part of that.
It's massive
like
variety as well.
Yeah, definitely. It makes you feel like you're involved in more than just the brand itself. And you feel like you want to buy the products just to kind of be involved more so.
Yeah.
To be able to like, oh yeah, I can do it too kind of thing. It's really like, it's all about content that's kind of relatable, I suppose, isn't it?
It's content you want to digest. Like, I remember I followed Shreddy during the first lockdown.
Yeah.
That's when I first heard about it. That's when I first started following it.
Yeah.
I still follow him now.
Yeah.
Because the content, I'm happy to watch it. Like, it's not something
exactly.
I don't want on my feed anymore.
Yeah.
It's always interesting. I think where as well they use a lot of user-generated stuff. It also, like, it's relatable.
Yeah,
You're happy
definitely.
to see it. It's not like forced and like put in your face.
No, definitely not. And I feel like they do, as much as they sell the product, they do also kind of dirt sell the product. Like, it's the type of brand that I would follow regardless of whether I buy the product or not. Like, I don't think I personally don't go to the gym enough to get to their workout or pre-workout or whatever it is they sell. But I'm quite honest, I don't actually know what they sell, but I just know that I enjoy the content and I'd follow it just to see that content rather than because I enjoy the product like so much. They've created like you said, like a really nice little tight-knit community, and I feel like it's kind of like transcended the brand more so than anything else. And I suppose she's played into that because her social media is basically the same. It's like all of the content that she does is based on what people have asked her to do and what people have
literally
mentioned.
Always asking for questions, asking for polls, asking for people's opinions, like people who buy from her businesses. She wants to know, which I think puts her aside from people and puts her ahead of other people.
Definitely.
Other business owners.
I don't know if that's something to do with her age though, because I suppose like her age is also the demographic that she's targeting. So it's easy for her to kind of relate to people and to be able to speak out, and I guess talk in a way that people like our age would also be like, oh, that's, you know, it makes sense to us. It kind of, we understand it, and it's like we're more likely to start a conversation, I guess, with her through social media just simply because she's the right age and she's part of that demographic.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've seen that Pepsi have recently rebranded, and we know that Lil are starting to disappear, I guess. They're slowly going to be discontinued and rebranded as, was it Fanta Tropical?
Yeah, Fanta Tropical.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm thinking that a lot of other brands are going to start going the same way.
I think 7-Up already have as well.
Oh yeah, 7-Up.
They did it like maybe last month, I think,
or
like the month before, I remember. Yeah,
they definitely have. It looks, I think the rebrands are obviously like, they're a lot more modern, or they're like retro feel, but in a modern way. And I think they're kind of like tapping into like the older generation as well as the younger generation with this. 100%. It's kind of catering to people wanting something new and wanting something fresh. But it's also kind of going back on themselves and going back to their roots a little bit to make sure that they're not dropping an audience in the process. Yeah. And I think a lot of other brands, I'm kind of interested to see whether Kirk's going to do anything. Because
I don't think they will.
They've had the brand for so long, and like it's been around for donkey's years. And I feel like even their rebrands have never been massively different. So it'd be interesting to see if
it will be interesting. I just don't think they would.
It'd be a
massive shake-up if they did.
Yeah, definitely. But I kind of think, if anything, I think if they don't, it'll be because they're trying to prove that they're still the leader in the market, and that they don't have to rebrand in order to kind of keep things fresh. They're just always going to be there. People will always pick up a bottle of Coke, I suppose.
I think they're like the sort of brands I see rebrand the most at the moment is drinks and food. Because I remember, I think it was last year, Baskin Robbins rebranded.
Yeah.
And they include like the 31 in the logo, and it looks really cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, but they're still keeping to like not too far away from the original.
Yeah, it was very similar, I suppose, isn't it?
And just make everything sleeker, which I think needs to kind of happen now.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's one brand that it's like, what's it called? Asda's own range, like their Essentials range. It's really, obviously it's not quite Lil and Pepsi, but they did a rebrand recently and I thought it looked so much better. It's kind of like, it really modernised it and made it look a lot more fresh, and I guess like kind of made it look like less like it's a what's the word? Like a cheaper product.
Yeah.
And more like it's still a good range of products that people can buy. Like just an affordable version of everything else. But I think it's nice to see brands shaking it up and changing things, and I think it adds more colour to the market, and it changes the shelves a little bit. It's nice every now and again, but I suppose with like bigger brands, it's always weird to see them change. And I don't know what I'm going to feel like when I see Pepsi on the shelf as a new brand. It's going to be really odd.
No, I get what you mean.
I'll be sad to see Lil go as well.
I still can't believe that. It's the fact they've gone from being their own sort of thing to going under the Fanta.
Yeah. They're always Fanta, weren't they?
And even just going under like the whole, just Fanta with a different flavour rather than being their own sort of thing.
Yeah, it was nice to have Lil, but I suppose like I didn't really pay attention to Lil until they changed. So I don't know if it was like a bit of a strategy for them to change and to mix it up and go, we're not going to have that brand anymore, because then people are like, well, I'm going to buy Lil now.
No, yeah, true.
You can buy it for a couple £100 now on eBay, can't you? Even though we can still buy it downstairs.
Yeah.
Cheap. Yeah, very cheap. But yeah, I think it's nice to see them changing it up, but I don't know how many more are going to follow suit. It'll be interesting to see. I think Dr. Pepper. I kind of want to see them.
Yeah,
rebrand.
I'd like to see them rebrand. I've never been a massive fan of Dr. Pepper's brand.
No.
It's behind the rest of them, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It looks really outdated now. I think the colours are a bit too dull, in my opinion.
Especially compared to everyone's new colours. Like even 7-Up's real bright now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they all go with it and who goes next, I suppose. But always ending it with a but yeah.
But yeah. Right, yeah.
Jeez. Right. So your social media journey, just in general, but
in general, right.
Yeah. So what made you want to get into social media?
Originally, I kind of fell into it, I'm not going to lie. It was a case of I wanted to do an apprenticeship rather than uni. I wanted to do something creative. And to be honest, I hadn't even really considered social media as such. My art teacher told me to look at something more creative than going down the original business apprenticeship. Genuinely, when you first Google apprenticeships, that's what comes up with, business admin. Yeah. And I was like, I don't really want to do that.
Yeah. I saw a lot of accounting apprenticeships and things like that.
Accounting, I was like, don't get me wrong, I love business. I love business A-level, but I was just like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I thought, I don't want to do it forever.
No.
The only lesson that I loved was art. So I was a bit like, I need to do something that I want to do.
Yeah.
I fell into a content creator apprenticeship, and it was a bit like, to be honest, when I even applied for it, I weren't 100% sure what it was. I knew it was kind of more art-based, and I was like, right. And I was reading it, it's what I wanted to do.
And creative.
Definitely. Yeah. So then it was on the design team, and I was in an agency, and to be fair, kind of straight away I was like, oh my God, there's a social media team.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I absolutely loved social media at the time. Like I've had it since I was 10.
Yeah.
So like it's something I'm always on. I was like, that would be amazing as a job. I was on the design team though, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But it's just the case, it kind of, like my apprenticeship I got made redundant from, and then this role was up. It was in the social media apprentice. Yeah. And I was like, that is literally what I wanted to do. I wanted to do it after my apprenticeship anyway. I thought, right, either when my design one's over, I'll just transfer onto it, because it's a good apprenticeship. It's just content creation, which I can easily use for social media.
It feeds into social media, doesn't it?
Without a doubt. Yeah. So I was like, it would have been a waiting game, really.
Yeah.
Because I kind of knew that was more the direction I wanted to go in. Because I knew I'd enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
As much as I enjoyed design, it was more social media. It felt more of don't want to say the cringy passion side of it. But it is like something that I knew I was going to enjoy.
Yeah, I fully get that. I also fell into social media. I kind of got offered a role as a freelancer, and I was like, I want to be a designer. I want to be a graphic designer. That's what I want to do. And this girl was like, well, I can't offer you a role as a graphic designer, but you can make social media content. And I was
Yeah.
like, great, I'll do that. And yeah, since then I just kind of got offered roles in social media more
I
so
think
than
people
anything
don't
else.
realise what actually, like, I don't think you know what social media
No.
job's going to be like.
I really thought it'd be like not boring, but just posting every day,
Yeah.
just
But
monotonous.
it's such a variety of different things.
There's a lot more
which
you
I
can add
really
to
love.
it, definitely. But
Yeah.
it's nice to see, I suppose, like people, like even if you fall into it, I think it's like it shows how good a job it is and how good a
because
role
you
it is.
stay. You fall in it, but you stay. You
yeah,
don't plan on
literally.
leaving, like, ever.
Yeah. It's like once I got into it, I was like, I want to do this for a couple of months, and I was like, then I'll go on and do something else.
Yeah.
And then I got offered another job in social media, and I was like, yeah, I guess I'll do it. Like, it'll be fun. And I think since then that was it. I kind of like was on the hunt for good jobs in social media. I feel like I landed a good one. It was
Literally,
nice, but
I think it was just a chance. Literally, with all the other apprenticeships, I was just like, oh, social media, what are the odds of that? I knew I wanted to do it in like a couple months' time or a year's time.
yeah,
I might as well just try it now.
definitely, yeah.
It's like a year down the line. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't plan on leaving it anytime soon. Like,
It's definitely
genuinely.
What's your favourite part of what we do?
Oh, I don't know really.
Mm.
I'd say I want to say the content creation, but it depends because creative block does my head in. When you have a good day of creativeness, like if you can just like absolutely smash out like a load of content, I'm like, that is the best feeling ever.
Yeah, definitely.
When you just can look at the end of the day and go, I've just done all of this.
yeah.
Or like, I don't know, the researchy sort of side to it as well. I do really enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. I find that even though I'm really like, I always say that I was like more creative. I was in school, it was like, couldn't stand like maths or English. I was like, well, enjoyed English, but generally it was like you said, art was my favourite subject as well. It was something that I really enjoyed, and I got into a job and I was like, why do I like doing admin-y things? I was like, why do I enjoy researching things? It's really, it's probably the reason that sometimes I get creative block is because I just look into too many things and I had
literally I have too many
too
ideas.
much information on my
I don't know where to start. Like, that's my
Literally,
issue. Like, you know, like especially as much as Canva, I want to try and get away from it. I want to use Illustrator.
Yeah.
The template really helps sometimes. 'Cause I'm like, I know what I want to do, but I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Even if you just use a template as like
Canva's
to refer
nice.
to.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good place to start, like you say. Like I think getting into using Illustrator more it'll be something that comes naturally eventually, and like just as long as you know how to use it and you use it occasionally anyway. I always see you on it, so
True.
It's not like it's going to be like you just completely
Deep dive into
never use it.
Illustrator,
But you'll get there eventually, and I suppose it'll be a case of like you'll get to a point where things just won't be working on Canva. You'll be able to do it, and you'll just be like, right, I'll just do it myself. But yeah, I definitely think it's the research side of it's great.